This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
All right, welcome in. Special edition of the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast. John Zannis pinch hitting for Nick Cattles as we are wrapping things up right after night two of the draft concluded. Greg Bedard reporting from Foxborough, where Elliot Wolf spoke to the media not too long ago, kind of wrapping up the Patriots day two selections. Patriots had 3 picks, made a couple of trades moving in and around the board, were able to get themselves a future 4th rounder out of the deal, walked away with 3 offensive players, running back Travion Henderson, receiver Kyle Williams, and center Jared Wilson, all highly athletic, highly productive college players. Greg, I guess I'll just ask you overall, just your view on how they did today. And I know obviously you liked Campbell day one. How do you think they did today?
Yeah, I thought they did a great job, John. I really do. And a lot of this is going to be very positive, and I think a lot of people are probably going to be shocked. And I don't think anybody would call me a homer at any point in time. I just give you my honest assessment, but we'll just start with today. I thought they did a tremendous job. I went into today and talked about it with Nick on our podcast before today's second and third round, and Nick asked me what I thought they were going to do, and I didn't know the order, but I figured they would address. They would pick another offensive lineman at some point, some sort of interior guy, because left guard was one of their big remaining holes on this team, sort of a big question mark at least. I thought wide receiver would be addressed. I thought there would be some good players out there, and I thought running back, a pass back, an explosive type of back would be addressed, and all 3 they did, and I thought they did a great job, and I liked the order that they went in. I mean, I think that, Travion Henderson is a guy that, as far as my day 2 list, was at the top of my list for running backs. I thought he would go before they got a chance to pick, so I didn't think that was realistic. But them sitting there at 38 and him being there, I just think it's a home run, because he's a home run hitter. I mean, he's got speed, he's got explosiveness. For a young back, a college back, to be able to do pass protection the way that he has is way beyond what you normally see in these types of players, and gives them a chance to compete on day one to be sort of the next great Patriots passing back, and James White and Kevin Falk and Shane Vereen and all these guys, that type of guy. But also Elliot Wolf said that they see him as 3-down ability, which he definitely has that. Kyle Williams was one of my top-rated wide receivers coming into this. I mean, the word that comes to mind when I think of Kyle Williams is explosiveness. I mean, his ability to get off the ball, his ability to get up to top speed quickly, really stands out on film. And then Jared Wilson is one of these guys, and they're all young, they're all really good people, high character guys. And Jared Wilson is a guy who, he played center and really well for Georgia this year. He had been sort of a 6th offensive lineman before that. So really, and I asked Elliot Wolf this, and I heard from other Patriots sources, he's going to have an ability, because they signed Garrett Bradbury in the offseason. He's going to get the chance to compete at left guard, which is one of the big question marks on this team. And so, I mean, from that perspective, they checked off 3 big question marks on this offense on day 2. And to me, I thought they did a terrific job adding 3 guys that have a very good chance of being heavy contributors to the team this year.
Yeah. So I guess breaking it down pick by pick, the first thing you're going to look at, was, and again, there was some Ashton Jeanty smoke potentially with the Patriots. Would they consider him at 4? Can't miss player, explosive. I know you liked him a lot, but seems like a luxury pick for a team in the first round with all the needs the Patriots have, and maybe not the infrastructure to be able to support it. In the second round, some people still feel that way. So you're going to have that kind of mixed bag reaction and reception to the pick, because Luther Burden, who was a lot of people's binky, is sitting there available, and he went maybe a pick later to the Bears. And that was, I think, somebody people had targeted. So not that people didn't like Henderson, but some of the reaction would be, well, couldn't you have gotten the receiver there and the back later? Then you come back with Kyle Williams later. So you're going to be looking at it as, are you better with Travion Henderson and Kyle Williams, or would you have been better with Burden and whatever back you could have gotten there? If that's the direction that you wanted to go with those two picks, it feels like, and again, I don't know whether Wolf addressed this or not, they took every last second to make that pick. I don't know if there was a disagreement in the room, or they were, maybe a little bit torn there, because they didn't expect it. They didn't know if that was necessarily what they should have gone. It really feels, and Wolf said it, that they went with best player available, that maybe they hadn't considered that they were going to go back that early. But when they saw him sitting there, they said, we can't not draft this guy.
Yeah. Wolf was asked about that, and it was on my list of questions to ask.
Yeah.
Wolf said that they were getting trade offers, and
they were
ultimately they decided the value of the trade was not worth
too good
what the player was. And I agree. And I understand. I wasn't a big Luther Burden guy. I thought he was a little bit too undersized to be taken that high. But I mean, I think, Genty, I'm a big fan of. He's obviously an every down back. And I think, he's special and he's built low to the ground. Travion Henderson is a smaller, lighter back. But the thing is like, you look at these guys in totality, like Henderson's he's an explosive playmaker. So is Kyle Williams. And I think just adding that element to Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson was too much to pass up.
Yeah, Greg, as you said, it's too good to pass up with Travion Henderson here. How do you see him kind of playing out here in year one on this team? You mentioned that they talk about him as a guy who does have every down ability, but he is a slightly smaller guy, so I don't see him coming right out of the gate with 20-plus touches per game. What does this mean, as far as Ramondre Stevenson is concerned with this team? Is it still Stevenson's backfield and Henderson mixes in? Does he have a chance to just take it outright? And again, backs, sometimes they take a little bit more time. One of the things that usually holds them back is the pass protection and things like that they have to kind of work on before they can be trusted to be out there so they don't get a quarterback killed. Since he's so good at that, you would think he has a shorter path to significant playing time.
Yeah, I don't see him having a big role. I mean, we'll see how the season goes. I think he is going to be, we'll see what happens with Antonio Gibson. You got to remember that this is also a guy who, because of his smaller stature, durability has been an issue for him in the past. So you don't want to ask too much of him. I see him as a, 10 to 15 play guy. Maybe if he's able to show that he can do more, he gets into the rotation a little bit. They still have Antonio Gibson, who's a very good guy. I see Stevenson and Gibson still rotating as the sort of first two down backs. And I think Henderson's going to be in short order. I think he's going to be the third down back. And it's just, it's really about giving Josh McDaniels. And by the way, what they've done over the first 2 days, this is something Bill Belichick never would have done, never did for Josh McDaniels in terms of, here, let me give you more tools for the tool chest. Like the only time he ever did this was for like Matt Patricia. And that really worked out well. That was a good expense. But I mean, it's all these guys, it's just giving them more playmakers. I mean, when you think about the guys that they have now, and even if you incorporate like a Pop Douglas, I mean, you're talking about guys who can make plays in space, who can make people miss and can get up to speed quickly. And it's been a long time, maybe forever, since the Patriots had those type of guys. So I just see him as he's just going to add an element of speed, home run ability, but not on a big basis, I wouldn't say, for a while.
Yeah. Well, going back to, as you said, they would have never done this, and looking at it like across the board with a guy like Henderson and then a guy like Williams, going to that next pick, Kyle Williams was another one. And again, I don't know how you had these guys stacked up on your board, but there seemed to have been a lot of Jalen Knoll pub here as the guy that, oh my God, the Patriots could get him. And they didn't. They went with Kyle Williams instead. Then they could have drafted Knoll again if they wanted to double dip at receiver, and they traded out of the next picks, and then they traded down again. So apparently that was someone they didn't have on their radar. Between those two players at receiver there, and you did think that they needed to address receiver somewhere here on day two, Was Williams the guy that you would have gone for in that slot?
Well, I just think that there are a bunch of guys. I mean, like Jaden Higgins went earlier. A
Yeah,
lot of these guys that you're mentioning, um, they're sort of, smaller slot type of guys. And
right.
I think, people are a little bit too, with Josh McDaniels back, everybody's sort of like, oh, well, he's a typical Patriots guy. I don't think that's what they want. I think they were more looking for a receiver with inside outside versatility. And I think that's Kyle Williams. I thought he was one of my highest rated wide receivers coming into this thing just because of I'm not a big draft Nick, but when I watch these guys, I'm just looking for certain traits. And like the thing, like
Yeah,
I said, that jumps out about Williams is just his explosiveness. You watch him get up to
he's a
speed quickly,
separator.
and that's very rare. Yeah, and like it seems like the Patriots, as some of the draft Nicks fall in love with these smaller, quicker, whatever receivers, but it seems like the Patriots are going for more guys who are a little bit more stout, more fast than quick. And I think durability is a concern. Durability has been a concern with Pop Douglas. And so Williams, to me, has inside-outside versatility. He definitely has a chance to be sort of an X receiver. I mean, he's not exactly big or anything like that, but just his ability to separate down the field, like he has a speed to sort of, be that top off the defense type of guy. And I think that's why he appealed to the Patriots.
Are you surprised again that they went offense here? Because with one of these picks, there was a lot of, again, it's all speculation. A lot of people thought, especially considering how much talent was there available, and then going back to the top of the second round at the edge position, that might have been something that they would kind of take a shot at. Do you think they consciously went offense across the board with all of these picks because Vrabel decided, I'm helping Drake May in any way possible? That's the most important thing that I can do for this team. And again, in free agency, bringing in so many people on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, you brought in Stephon Diggs late in the season, but do you think this was their mindset going in? I'm taking the best offensive players available in these earlier slots in the first 2 days of the draft?
Yes, the short answer is yes. I think it was a case
Yeah.
of, and I sort of talked about this as free agency went along because and I brought it up. Even I stomped my feet a little bit during free agency, saying like, "All right, fine, the defense. Where the hell is the offense?"
Where
And
are they? Right.
the explanation that I gave, and that from talking to people was, you know, the things they wanted to do and they were prepared to spend on offense, like, a Ronnie Stanley or a Chris Godwin, and, the type of people who, are program setters and impact players. And those guys just didn't become available, where some of them did, or a lot of them did, on defense. So they pounced on those guys. And I think, Mike Vrabel, to his credit, and I wonder, how much he had to be constrained as a defensive guy not to be like, pull a bill and be like, we're taking defense here. But I got to give him credit for staying restrained and saying like, look, we took care of the defense in free agency. Now it's time to take care of the offense. We couldn't do it in free agency. We didn't find the value. We stayed disciplined, and now we're going to pay the offense back. And I think that's what this was about, really.
Yeah. We have one more pick we want to get to. Before that, we want to hear from our pals over at Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You got the playoffs are going, hockey and basketball. It's the perfect time to get in on the app. Love the app, easy to use, and root for your picks. It's a lot of fun. You got to get in the game. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. The app is really easy to use. To create a lineup, all you do is pick more or less on a few player stats for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. Like I said, the playoffs are here. Action is heating up. The best place to cash in on your favorite sports is at Prize Picks. Don't miss your chance to cash in as the league's best fight for conference and league titles. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, Greg, picking it back up. Patriots had a chance again coming in here at pick 77. There are still a lot of good players on the board. They trade back to 85. Then they trade back again to 95. Did you think they passed anything up here with these two trades that was, oh man, they could have really gotten somebody here? Because again, it's a substantial drop. It's an 18-player drop from 77 to 95. They got good value on that second trade because they got a future fourth from Kansas City, I think, which belongs to the Bears. So that could be even better there. But do you think there was a guy that, oh man, I got to go get this guy, and they should have probably, stuck there and picked them?
Just looking at, 77, names that stood out. Jalen Noel, I wasn't a big fan of, like I said, because of the size. Yep. Savion Williams, the wide receiver from TCU, a lot of people mentioned. I was not a fan of because he's Cordarrelle Patterson, and in that he's not really a receiver. He's more of a jack of all trades, and it took Cordarrelle a while to get going. Wyatt Milliam at 89 to the Jaguars was certainly on my list as a possible tackle, possible guard, but he's really big. The dude's like 6'8". I don't know how they viewed him, but he's a good player. I don't feel like they really missed on that. And then, to come back with Jared Wilson, I just think, to me, if you're just talking about pure centers in this draft, I think he was probably the best. Now, Gray Zabel, who was a North Dakota State offensive tackle, yeah. I think he's ultimately a guard. He could certainly be a great center as well, but I think that Jared Wilson was the best pure center in this draft, and he does have the ability to play guard and might be a standout guard. I mean, to me, I thought they did a great job. When I look at the list of guys that went between 77 and 95, nobody really jumps out as guys where I'm like, damn, they really missed. I mean, I think they hit another home run with Jared Wilson in terms of, I think people are going to love him, and I think he's going to fit a variety of roles, if not be an immediate starter as soon as he gets here.
Yeah, another center out of Georgia to replace David Andrews. But again, I think it's got day one starter written all over. And again, this is a guy, you talked about, he's kind of like the sixth O lineman here, played center, but might kick over to left guard. I think he might compete at either position here. And again, a phenomenal athlete. And it's another guy you talk about, Will Campbell as kind of an outlier athletically with his relative, athletic score being in the top 0.01 percentile of all left tackles who've played since whatever. Wilson's another one of those guys with ridiculous athletic measurables here. And again, a sub 540-yard dash, not that necessarily matters, but a 9.84 RAS, if that's the kind of thing that turns you on. Another terrific athlete there. And again, this is value drafting at this position at this point in the draft. You're getting arguably the best player at this position here. And it is amazing what they were able to do when you say, and again, I'm far from a homer as well, but it's like you're getting a running back that could have been a potential first rounder in a deep running back draft class where people think there might be 4 or 5, running backs that could be every down backs for a long period of time with Pro Bowl caliber metal. And then you're drafting a center here that really could, come in and compete right away in day one. So kind of what you said at the top of the show, or what we said, maybe even off air, like they've plugged a lot of holes. You don't know how these guys are going to play here, but like you've got to feel a lot better because now you can go left to right on the line and be like, we can live with this. And again, I think that's what gets lost all the time is like, they weren't just bad last year, Greg. They were so far below replacement level. There were other teams that probably had 2 and 3 guys who could have been better left tackles or left guards than what the Patriots were putting out there. They were that bad. So even improving to league average is a massive jump across the line there. You've got an explosive running back. You've added wide receiver depth. I don't know what's left at this point. You brought back your two tight
Mhm.
ends. It's not super sexy, but you're okay at that position. You went from feeling that you're bad everywhere to at least okay a lot of places, if not really good in a few of them. So it's a huge sea change in terms of how you view the entire roster.
Yeah, and I basically posed that question to Elliot Wolf, about like, I'm one of these guys that I keep a running depth chart on the Patriots, and I have like needs that need to be filled, and really, when you step back and look at it after the first 2 days of the draft, considering everything they did on offense and a couple offensive line places in free agency, and now what they did today, I mean, they basically checked everything off. I mean, you look at it like, let's just go through it real quick. I mean, at wide receiver, you now have Stephon Diggs, Mac Hollins, Kyle Williams, Kendrick Bourne, at least, and then you still have Kayshon Boutte,
DeMario.
Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk, like, and then the offensive line, you could be looking at a starting group of Will Campbell, Jared Wilson, Garrett Bradbury, Michael Wenu, Morgan Moses. You said the tight ends. You have a full wide receiver room right now. You have a veteran backup. On defense, you have Christian Gonzalez, Carlton Davis, Marcus Jones at cornerback. Across the front, you have Keon White, Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, Harold Landry. At linebacker, you have Robert Spillane, Jack Gibbons. You added Omar Epps as sort of a free safety along with Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers and stuff. I mean, outside of like, if they had to line up tomorrow, the only spot on this team that you really feel scared about is that kicker, because all they have is John Parker Romo. I mean, there's certainly other depth issues, and Wolf said that, but he basically admitted that, now to this point in time, I mean, you look at it, they've basically solved everything and that they can compete tomorrow, and you could see them being a competitive team. And, there's a long ways to go and there's a lot to sort out. But I mean, look, I was as critical, well, not more than anybody, but, I was certainly critical at certain points of this offseason, but I also am a guy who sees the big picture and preaches patience. And, through free agency and the first 2 days of the draft, I mean, even the most cynical Patriots fan has to look at this and be like, damn, this group has done a nice job this offseason. And even Elliott compared it to last year. It's basically a 180. And basically admitted, we kind of failed last year at this. We've done it really well this year, and they have. You just got to be honest and say, to this point, they've done a really good job up in the compete level for this team to probably a place where a lot of us were like, a lot of people were talking about 2, 3, 4 year rebuilding plan. I don't think that's in the cards. I think this team is ready to compete and, threaten 500 and who knows how much more.
Yeah, it is refreshing too, because you talk about going from the Belichick years where he's drafting guys who are like projected to go 4 rounds later than they go, and everybody's mad about every single pick, and he's sticking to defense because that's what he knows and that's what he feels comfortable, and offense be damned. And then last year you had a situation where Elliott's thrown into the fire and clearly told, we have to get we have to fill these positions, and they drafted out of need, and they whiffed outside of Drake May a lot of places. And here you're kind of into you got some holes to fill, go get the best players available, and they got a lot of the best players available at a lot of positions of need. So again, same thing. I'm not one of those bang the homer, drum sort of guys. I like all of it so far. It's just, you never know what's going to happen until you get to Sundays and see whether these guys can play. The other super intriguing non-Patriots related storyline, which I don't know if you've talked to anybody. I don't know how much you care about this. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Like the Shedeur Sanders story about not being drafted in day one. Most people would caution and say, guys, he didn't slide. This is where people had him. Maybe late first if someone wanted to take a flyer, but realistically somewhere in the second round, and that's where teams would feel comfortable taking him. And a lot of people assumed Browns will just snap him up here early on, or if not them, the Raiders, if not them, the this, the that. Pittsburgh, nope. 5 quarterbacks are gone. At best, he's going to be the 6th quarterback taken. He doesn't go in the first 3 rounds of the draft. Like, what level of collusion is going on here? Is this, or did this guy piss off everybody so much that he's literally on everyone's do not draft list across they don't care where he's available. Nobody wants to touch him.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't know a whole lot what's going on. With Drake May, I don't really check in on the quarterbacks. I mean, I do have eyes and ears, so I understand what's going on. I'll just say this. At the minimum, it's utterly ridiculous that Shedeur Sanders is still available, and two guys specifically, that Jalen Milroe and Dylan Gabriel went before him. I mean,
Right.
it's a complete joke. I mean, it just is. Jalen Milroe, is a phenomenal athlete, and Shedeur isn't a great athlete, but that dude throws it all over the map, and certainly a good guy to develop, but Shedeur is I think he's a good quarterback. I haven't talked to anybody about this. I just think he and his father handled the pre-draft process as poorly as possible. Eh, they just should have been a little bit more humble. They should have done everything, the combine, whatever, do everything. Seemed like they were being selective and turned off some teams. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on. It's absurd to me that, especially Dylan Gabriel. I mean, look, that guy doesn't have a shot at starting in the National Football League. He's a career backup at best. And for him to go before Shedeur is just ridiculous.
But that's what I don't get is at this point, okay, he's been punished. He feels shame. The ego has been deflated. You're no longer investing serious draft capital here. If you didn't want him late third, do you want him period? Is it possible he just doesn't get drafted? People have decided, I just don't want to deal with this guy and his dad and the whole situation here. I mean, could this go on? Or what's the difference? If you're the Browns and you draft him in the 6th round, what's the difference between that and the 3rd round? It's the same guy and the same issues at this point. You have to wonder, if he keeps getting passed on, could it go on literally forever? Might he not get picked? It's strange. There's a lot of, how do you ignore it? There's so many teams right now that are bankrupt at quarterback. How are you not rolling the dice at this point? I don't understand it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I just if you're a team, I don't have an easy answer. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just
That's fine. It's really real quick before we get into it, because no one's going to wake up in time to be able to do any pre-draft coverage heading into day 4 tomorrow. Anything you want to see the page? Do you have a binky? Do you have I get this guy and my day will be complete? Or are there just certain needs you want to see them address here? Or at this point, it doesn't matter. Day 3, it's all lottery tickets anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would expect, with the depth of this draft and how Elliott talked about, they wanted to do some things on defense tomorrow. I would think, because of how deep the class is at edge and defensive tackle, that they would look to add a couple guys there. I would like to see a slot cornerback, a nickel back, which is very important in Mike Vrabel's system. I love Marcus Jones and all. He has injury issues. He's smaller. I'd like to see a more athletic guy added there, possibly a linebacker. I still have, maybe a developmental tight end on my list. Of course, a developmental quarterback. I would love to see Riley Leonard from Notre Dame. I think he would be perfect for Josh McDaniels to develop, and he's a similar athlete to Drake May. So I think those guys would work really well together. Possibly another slot receiver if you could find one. And of course, a place kicker. Right now, the Patriots only have John Parker Romo. There's the kid from University of Miami, Borgelis, I think, is the sort of top-rated place kicker. So they have 6 picks tomorrow, and so I think they can do a lot of those things.
Yeah, Mitchell Evans, also Notre Dame, tight end, I think still on the board. Could be somebody who's within their range of picking. But yeah, they have movement, and they can move around the board, and they can do a lot of things. So we'll see how that goes. There'll be more coverage from Greg. Obviously tomorrow on the draft. You can follow all of his draft written coverage over at BSJ, along with Mike Giardi. The two of them are working tirelessly, covering all aspects of the draft, and there'll be a lot more players and moves and picks to dissect on day 3 on Saturday. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast. Thank you guys for listening again. Please subscribe here to either the podcast, wherever you listen, leave a review, rate it, do all of that good stuff. And also, if you're watching it on video, you're here on CLNS Media's Patriots Press Pass channel. Why don't you give us a like and subscribe and turn on your notifications? That way you will know anytime a new video drops, not only Greg's podcast, but a lot of other great Patriots podcasts and Patriots coverage as well. Thank you guys for listening /watching, and we'll see you later.